Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of my Kerbal Space Program 1 series. Blink and you'll miss it, but I'm quickly building a ship to go to the Mun. Because in this video, we make it to the Mun. Oh, no, I lied, this ship's not actually for the Mun. This is to gather some science real quick, so I can get some better rockets to go to the Mun. But yes, we're going to the Mun in this video. And spoiler, I do manage to land it. I had some hurdles that I actually ended up having to cut out of this video because of time constraints. Figured you guys would prefer to watch a 20-minute video over an hour video. But please do me a favor and hit that like button, the subscribe. Feel free to comment me in the comments. Join my Discord. I respond to all of the comments on YouTube and answer your questions and everything. As you saw there, I just finished getting some science. Now we're going to get some rockets and look through the rest of the stuff. Got some fuel too. And now we're starting the build on our Mun ship. Making sure to bring science with us. And I thought about doubling the heat shields like you usually do, but I decided that was unnecessary and just went with the one and a decoupler, I mean. And now I'm picking out my engine. Went with the swivel because that's a pretty well trusted engine. And now I'm figuring out how I want to do this. The plan is to land and then do all of my science. And I think I was looking at seeing if I could put landing gear on it or something, or how much Delta V I needed. Went with two fuel tanks here, and now I'm going to do 3 more as around it, and these will actually end up being what I land on. Believe it or not, I just land on those engines because the landing gear is a little bit too short for what I have right now to make it past the engines and be used. So I just have to use the engines, and landing on 3 engines that wide like that's a lot easier than landing on 1 engine. So the first and second, well, the last 2 stages are done. The 3 outer ones are my landing engines, and they'll end up getting me back off the surface a little bit. And then the center stage is my return stage, which will get me safely back to Splashdown and Kerbin. So now we're building a main stage. This one will should get me mostly to the Mun. Kept it pretty small, just enough Delta V to where will do the job. And now I need a whole bunch of fuel. And then I decided to put some. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do like the main stage here. I thought about doing like a fuel tanks around it and then extra engines, but I ended up going with, I think it was 8 solid rocket boosters, and that actually worked really well. So I did that, as you can see here. Oh, and I went with I think it's called the skipper engine for the main stage engine. And now I'm trying to find a nose cone for these solid rocket boosters, which I don't have one big enough unlocked, so they don't get one. Make sure to put a whole bunch of struts on it. because I don't like things falling apart unplanned. No unscheduled rapid disassemblies for me. Now you'll notice in there I actually have a inline stabilizer, I think, or reaction wheel. Whole bunch of batteries, but that reaction wheel is about to be a big problem because I've one at the bottom of that last stage too, which everything's going great on my first launch. Great thrust weight ratio, and things are getting a little hot here, but we're fine. And now I start noticing the problem with the reaction wheels. In a moment here. Yep, there it goes. It gets very flimsy, which is a bit problematic. So I realized I passed my apoapsis there by accident and reverted back to a quick save I had. And that brings me to my next point of discussion here. So the video you're watching here is not actually my first attempt at this. My first attempt ended really badly and got cut out of this because, well, a little bit before this I was trying to get some money, so I had enough money to do this. So I did some more passenger flights that you saw in episode 2. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. And then I tried going to the MUN, and I made it to the MUN and crash landed. And then I thought I had a quick save from shortly after launch, because I had been forgetting to do quick saves that whole time. And, well, I reverted back to my last quick save, and it was in the middle of the beginning of right after launch of my passenger mission I did. So I quite literally just lost all my progress there and ended up having to redo it all, which is what the very beginning of this video, that was just that real fast time lapse, was me redoing things. And then I went on to this to try again. And things definitely went better this time. I learned my lesson to make good quick saves and name them. I don't know if I really named all of them on this video, but episode 4 I definitely did. And it is actually recorded. And as of this, the time I'm doing this voiceover, it will be out the following Monday. That is subject to change, but right now I'm getting rid of those reaction wheels or stabilizers because they'd completely ruined that whole flight. And here we go again. We're taking off, good, pretty decent thrust weight ratio. And so all the previous footage was just sped up to not waste time, but I've actually reduced this launch to normal speed, not sped up. And then once I get up to where I'm starting to plan my apoapsis burn, orbital burn, I actually do start speeding it up until I get to deorbiting around the MUN. Not a whole lot, just times I think, but you would still be able to see like the gist of what's going on. But we'll get there in a minute here. Right now we're just getting our initial burn up out of Kerbal's atmosphere. And these solid rocket boosters get my apoapsis to right around 200,000 meters. Actually, this one got me up all the way to 250, it looks like. And now, when I depart, separate those, I do it very slowly and make sure they don't come back into that main engine, because I've had many problems with that. And I prefer to avoid blowing up my center stage, Things typically go a little bit better later on when I do that. And now, as you can see, I sped things up. Very inclined orbit I wasn't very happy about. However, I did figure out how to fix that in a maneuver node, which is awesome. It's not a perfect fix. It still leaves me a little bit inclined. But it fixes it to where I'm happy and able to get orbit encounters. So, doing that burn now. This was a pretty long burn. My thrust weight ratio is less than ideal until I dropped that last stage. Now it's pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with that. We left it as that. And now let's figure out how we get to Mun. Well, little did I know at the time, the on is actually my descending node, which is backwards. So I think I do eventually, maybe not this flight, I do realize that, and start using my ascending node. But I got things to work this way too. Or not, I did switch here. But we get a nice encounter there I was happy with. It's probably by no means a good encounter to some YouTubers like Matt Lown, but it was good enough for me to make an attempt at it, so I did. We're making that burn now, and I overshot it. So, or not sure what happened there. I think it just I needed to go to the right time warp to the right point. And now we've made an orbit around the Mun, but it crashes into the Mun. So had to go back and fix that real quick before I became a big firework on the surface of Mun. But that was easy enough, only 144 meters per second, and if you haven't noticed yet, I packed on way more delta V than I needed. Which, it actually, me being inexperienced, it ended up being pretty much exactly what I needed, with only like 200 or so extra, I think. But so I was comfortable with it, and I do like having extra that I don't need. So we finally made it in orbit around the Mun, and yep, that was the orbital burn, insertion burn, or that was an orbital. So that was me bringing the orbit down to a nice circular orbit, and now I'm trying to figure out where I want to land this thing. Which, from that first attempt that I did crash into the Mun, I realized that gradual descents are not my thing. I need to go vertical. I just set it to retrograde, and we just cut pretty much all my horizontal speed and go down. Which, for me, is a lot easier than try to do a last second burn to make things vertical. So just speeding things up now until I get down to a little closer and need to start burning, which I'm about to start doing now, letting it to get down to, I think it's around 20,000 I start my burn, or well, maybe 10,000. But we don't have a lot of speed cut, so I waited a little while longer, and we're about to start burning. I'm now thinking that this is probably a good time to start burning. But I have pretty good thrust weight ratio, so I think we'll be fine. Yep, totally fine. Made me nervous a little bit, but at the time. But I'm coming in a little bit hotter this run than um, some of my later runs. I did do a few more runs after this that you probably will get to see in the next episode. I just want to keep it down to this first landing. But we're just coming in nice and gradual. I've seemed to have found a pretty flat spot, which is great. But very small bursts of burns, keeping my speed as low as I can. And we've touched down. And we almost went over there, but we were fine. We stayed up right, just sitting on my engines. So now we're going to collect science, and little did I know, you get a whole bunch of science on Mun. I was used to like 20 or something at best on Kerbin, but I just got 200 here, so I was celebrating. So, getting a whole bunch of science from the modules I brought with me in that Science Junior, and now I'm doing an EVA to get a surface sample EVA report, which was like 240 science and then another 64, so that was awesome. Now we boarded real quick, doing a crew report, another like 40 science I think, and now we're about to take off again. And I decided to not waste time doing an orbital burn. I ended up just burning straight off the Mun and into a orbit around Kerbin, I believe. Starting off thinking I might do an orbital burn, but we ended up running out a few of that landing stage, which this is actually exactly how I planned it to be. Just enough to get me off Kerbin's Mun safely. Landed and take off safely. So now I've left the influence of Mun and into a Kerbin orbit, which now I need to bring that down a lot. So it was a pretty big orbit, which that'll be somewhat expensive, but as you've noticed, I have like 2,000 Delta V left, so we're fine on that front. So I'm not worried about things here. And there it's trying to show us a little Mun encounter, but we kept burning. I freaked out a little bit here, but ended up ignoring it. Yeah, see, if I'd done a burn there, I would have gone back into Mun orbit, but I didn't do that. So now we're just warping back to periapsis. I want to circularize my orbit here as much as I can. And I decided to just do it manually instead of using a maneuver node. This is just a circular burn, which I decided I wasn't going to circularize the orbit and just bring it in. Which I had enough Delta V that we could... Or I actually think I did that because I was running low on Delta V. But we're fine. And now I'm freaking out as I just about rammed into my engine. But we just barely missed it. Now I'm watching to make sure it's not going to come crashing back down at me. But we're fine. And a successful splashdown. And a very quick recover. And that will be a wrap for today's video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment if you have any questions or just in general. And have a good day.